Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is my channel, Alec Reads, and my name is Alec Reed, and today we're reading Wheelchair Accessible by J_JAG_ on Wattpad. I really enjoyed this story. It was sent to me by one of my friends, and I absolutely loved it. As a person who uses a wheelchair on and off throughout her life, it is definitely a story that I find very amazing, just because in so many movies, TV shows, books, there's a character who goes into a wheelchair, gets better, and doesn't have to use it anymore. But that's not how it works for a lot of us wheelchair users. Not only that, but there isn't a lot of books where there is a wheelchair character who's not completely saying, like, woe is me, I can't do anything. And the wheelchair user in this story is very independent, and she does everything she wants to do, and nothing holds her back. And she changes the course of people's lives and changes their minds about wheelchair users in general, which I really like, because there has been a lot of times where people are like, well, you can't do that, you use a wheelchair. I'm like, I can still do that. I might do it differently than you, but I can still do it. So this is going to be our first inclusivity project on this channel. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry for the long intro, but I did really want to talk about just the story that this is and the project itself. And let me know if you want me to bring on other people onto this project, because there are certain books that are read by two people. So, for instance, Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. I wanted to know if you guys wanted me to bring someone else on to my channel for that, because I don't know, it seems very fitting. But let me know in the comments if you want that. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment down below, whether it's just to say hello or whether it's to give recommendations. You can also reach out to my work email at readsalec@gmail.com. And let's jump right into the video. Wheelchair Accessible, Part 1. Some things in life come out of nowhere, whether it's death of a loved one, a change in the weather, or getting punched in the face, the latter of which I would know about, considering how many fights I've gotten into. These things may take you by surprise, may leave you feeling completely unprepared, but it's put to you to choose how you deal with them. You can let them ruin your life or improve it. You can be challenged and grow as a person, or can stay where you are, comfortable, and remain unchanged. Those things life throws at you may come as a shock, but it's up to you to control the shockwaves. I'd like to say that I had a pretty good grip on my life, and that what went on in it, things didn't happen unless I wanted them to happen. Nothing was beyond what I could handle. I had everything under control. Until I didn't. At my lowest point, when things seemed the darkest, when I was close to giving up, life decided to throw another thing at me. On that day, in early October, something crashed into my life that changed it forever. Something unexpected, something I was unprepared for, and something I definitely had no control over. I had no idea how to control the shockwaves. I had to learn to ride with them. And it was the best decision I ever made. I was mad at everything and everyone. It was like I couldn't even breathe without a burst of heat coursing through my veins with each intake of air. Anger shimmered under my skin, ready to blow out in any moment. And the sun, why did it need to scorch my skin from the outside when I was already being boiled alive from the inside? Why did it have to be so freaking hot? With heavy footsteps, I stormed down my usual path home. It was a trail that wound through a public park with trees, playgrounds, and sporting fields, and traveled between a massive hill and a small pond with little ducks that swam in them. But today, there were too many people here. The grass was an ugly shade of green, and the quacks from the ducks were obnoxious. Who did they think they were? Suddenly, there was a high-pitched scream to my left, which I groaned until something smashed into me and I was on the ground, pain coursing through my side. People gasped and whispered, and when I eventually peered my eyes open, I noticed they had all stopped to stare, too. Great. Thanks, everybody. Just what I needed today. Assessing myself, I figured there was no critical damage. A few sore spots in my shoulder, but nothing serious. I knew what a broken bone felt like, and this wasn't even close. So I sat up and dusted myself off. I slowly turned to see what I had been hit by, but in a moment, my heart stopped. A teenage girl was lying motionless on the ground, her body sprawled out on the pavement, and next to her was a wheelchair tipped on its side, one of its wheels still slowly spinning. Cursing, I kneeled next to her and gently rolled her over on her back. I had my first aid certifications and everything, but I really hoped she wasn't dead. This day was bad enough, and I didn't need to top it off with murder. Thankfully, in the next breath, she let out a groan and brought her hands to cover her face. Hey, are you, here? I gently helped her up into a sitting position. She used her hands to balance herself and shook her head slightly. Wow, that was really something. She rolled her shoulders and scrunched her face in pain when she must have found a sore spot, and she noticed the scrapes down her arms about the same time I did. A displeased expression crossed her face as she looked at her roughed-up skin, but then she seemed to sigh and move on quickly. Looking up, she realized there was a small crowd of people who were still watching us carefully. "I'm okay," she called out, lifting a small hand. "Thanks, everyone, but there's nothing to see here." Most people carried on, but a few loitered around, keeping an eye on us. They probably saw a big, pissed-off dude and thought I was going to throw her over my shoulder and haul a tiny girl back to my cave for dinner. "Help me up?" It took me a moment to realize she was speaking to me, and then I reached for her hands. Not like that. Her lips twitched as she gestured towards the wheelchair, still spinning on its side. Duh. Mentally kicking myself, I quickly got it and righted it up. "Thanks," she said before carefully pulling herself into the chair. Like she had probably done countless times before. Her little arms looked like they could barely lift her own body, but she did it without asking for help, which kind of surprised me. She was so, small. I watched dumbly as she dragged the bottom half of her body into the chair and braced her legs in their proper positions. Her long brown hair kept falling in front of her face the whole time, while when she finally tucked the strands behind her ears and tipped her head up to look at me, I was almost startled by her eyes, so light-colored that my first thought was that they were clear, see-through, before realizing they were just crystal blue. "Phew," she huffed, relaxing into her chair. "The struggles, man, they're unreal." I stared blankly at her for a moment, my brain stumbling but finally connecting the pieces of what had happened, and she looked right back, innocently, as if this wasn't completely her fault, as if my back wasn't throbbing because of her. "What?" I said impatiently. "No apology?" She blinked. "For what?" "For what?" I gasped. "For running me over." She struggled, looking unbothered. "I'm not really sorry. I mean, I'm okay. You're okay. I'd say everything's good. Are you kidding me? Was she trying to be funny? No, everything's not good. You took me out, and you didn't think that an apology is in order? I think we say sorry too much, she told me. It's like a reflex, a band-aid that we think will make everything instantly better. Let me ask you this. When you say sorry, do you really mean it? I would if someone hit me with a wheelchair. I ran my hand through my hair with a huff, muttering under my breath, Are you crazy? Nope, just crippled. She grinned, patting her chair. I shook my head, blowing out a breath of air. What was this girl's issue? Was she actually not going to apologize? For real. You can't crash into someone and break neck speed and then say something about band-aids and move on. I could feel the heat beginning to simmer under my skin again, and I knew at this point where I needed to walk away before I did or said something stupid. But I couldn't wrap my head around what had just happened, and I couldn't seem to let it go. What the heck were you even doing? I scowled down at her. When I bumped into you? She clarified, but continued when she saw the look on my face. Oh, I was doing some tricks at the top of it, but I lost control and rolled down the hill. I thought that part was obvious. I rubbed my forehead. Do you realize there was a pond right there, yeah? You could have driven straight into it. And, well, I'm assuming you can't swim. You're correct. You could have drowned if I wasn't there for you to run into. Whoa, I guess I'm lucky then. Yeah, you were lucky. What if you had fallen and no one was around, huh? Or what if you had scratched yourself up so badly that you couldn't move? You'd still be lying there until someone came and found you. I shoved another hand through my hair and then shook it at her, like I was scolding a child. Did you think of any of that before you did it? Not really. She pressed her lips together, holding back a smile. That's pretty reckless, don't you think, for someone like you? She shrugged, letting her smirk show. It's not like I can make my legs any worse. Oh, they're already useless. As if to prove a point, she shifted one of her legs and watched it flop back and forth onto the chair as she let it go. You're impossible, I groaned. Okay. Why was I getting so worked up over someone I hardly knew? Breathe, man. Just try not to die next time you decide to be an idiot, all right? I muttered, walking away. I needed to get home and take a nap for the next couple years or so. Hey, listen. I could hear the crunch of rocks beneath her wheels as she pushed herself to catch up with me. Thanks for looking after me and helping me with my chair. It's appreciated. She blinked up at me. Really? It was suddenly as though she had taken a bucket of water and thrown it onto the flames burning within me. My anger fizzled out with a whimpering hiss, and my fight gave out. My temper that I'd been holding so firmly a minute ago went limp, and I couldn't bother to find the strength to rebuild it. Well, yeah, whatever, I mumbled, having to look away from those clear eyes. They kind of freaked me out. It felt like they could see into my soul, and I didn't think either of us wanted to deal with that, or deal with what was in there. I took a deep breath, waited, and then, after a moment, asked, Still no apology? Probably not, she grinned. Figures. I moved to leave again. Hey, what's your name? I huffed and forced myself to turn back. Why? So I can tell the world what a hero you are. I rolled my eyes. I didn't want to tell her. She didn't need to know, but it felt rude not to. It's Mark. Cool, I'm Shauna. Okay. What, no nice to meet you stuff? He asked, lifting an eyebrow. Let me ask you something. When you say that, do you really mean it? I mimicked her expression. She caught on and grinned. Well said, Mark. I scoffed once before turning with a wave of my hand. See ya. Bye, she called happily. And I kept on walking, letting the past few minutes be pushed into the back of my mind, tucked away underneath the ever-growing amount of problems of my life. And I kept on walking, letting Shauna become just another stranger that I had passed by that day, who had nothing to do with me, nor I with her. And I kept on walking, not realizing that I had just met the girl who would become my very best friend. Part 2. People practically dove out of the way as I stalked through the halls, hoping to avoid the wrath they assumed I'd send their way if they so happened to make eye contact with me, like I was some monster intimidating, someone to be feared, a plague. I never used to be that guy. No one would have ever described me as scary or intimidating unless I was on the field. I was considered to be a friendly, nice guy. People used to like talking to me, hang out with me, looking at me. After everything that happened at the beginning of the year, my reputation had taken a dramatic turn for the worse. I hadn't gone out of my way to continually be rude to anyone or pick on people or anything like that, but it was as if people at school bullied a whole new person than I had been only a few weeks before, over a few dumb words. But I wouldn't take them back. Although I had said them in a moment of passion and anger, maybe a little bit of hurt, they had been raw and real, which was more than I could say about anyone in this school. I wouldn't have minded a new start so much. Getting to be someone new does have its perks. If I wasn't in high school, because in high school there's no real escape from your past and who you've been, someone always knows. Someone always remembers, and they'll hold it to you and hold it against you. I know people telling me that things will be different once I graduate, that life after high school is so much better and has less drama and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, great, except I'm not graduated and I'm still here, and it sucks. Every single day sucks. I wanted to be done with it, all of it. And maybe I would be soon. I could care less what my label was. I just wanted people to leave me alone, or at least glance at me. Either one. Someone's shoulder slammed into mine. I twisted to see a group of my teammates pass by, laughing obnoxiously together about something that happened at a party I wasn't invited to. Whenever, I didn't care. I didn't need anyone. I wasn't going to bow down to the pressure these stupid people put on me. I was my own person, and I had worth and crap like that. I didn't need anyone else. Compared to last time I walked this path, I was feeling a lot better. I had stopped at the store and grabbed some bags of Doritos on my way home, so I was at least a 7 out of 10, which was pretty good for me. Doritos just did that, you know? One bag of Doritos could turn a whole day around, I always say. And I was still munching on my second bag of the day when an oddly familiar voice called out to me. Hey, Marcus! I turned my head, despite the fact that nobody ever called me that, and spotted the girl in the wheelchair from earlier that week, sitting next to a picnic table with curly-haired blonde girl beside her. I nodded once in recognition, but kept walking until she called again. Mark! I breathed heavily through my nose and slowly turned my shoulders to her. What? Come here. She waved her hand, drawing more attention to us. Come on. Huffing, I tried to ignore the sets of eyes I felt on my back as I made my way over to her. What? I replied, awkwardly glancing between Shauna and her friend. Can I have a Dorito? She asked, already reaching into my bag and stealing an overflowing handful of my chips. I blinked. People did not take my food, especially not my Doritos. Thanks, man, she told me, her mouth full. Doritos can just make a whole day better, you know? I felt my eye twitch. Oh, hey, this is Allison. Shauna beamed, gesturing to the blonde next to her with orange-dusted fingertips. Allison smiled and said hello, while I said some sort of nod instead, trying not to murder Shauna with a glare as she licked her fingers clean. Allison, this is Mark, the guy I ran over the other day. Sweet, Allison nodded. It's nice to meet you, Mark. Before I could answer, Shauna jumped in. Ah, but do you really mean it, Allie? Shauna sent me a look, her blue eyes twinkling brightly. Mark's very particular about what he says, aren't you, Mark? Not that you would know, considering we've talked less than 5 minutes, I told her, a little irked. She didn't know anything about me, and she still had a speck of Dorito dust on her thumb. Well, before you two start arguing, she cut her off. I did mean it. You helped my friend. You're my friend, she told me. That's not really necessary, I started. The last thing I needed was these two thinking of me as their friend. Yeah, don't sign me up for that. Nonsense. Shauna waved me off. Like I said, your help yesterday was appreciated, and you're a national hero now. I tapped my fingers against the side of my leg and glanced over my shoulder. Maybe if I went along with her, I could get out of here faster. Sure, look, What school do you go to? Shauna interrupted. I sighed. Jefferson. The two girls shared the look. I guess that's why we've never seen him before, Allison said before turning back to him. We go to Jubilee out there on the north side. Okay, I muttered, still not caring. Shauna looked like she was going to laugh, so I quickly continued. Look, I've got to get going. Sorry to end our little bonding session, but I'm leaving. This was also funny to Shauna for some reason. Oh, Mark, I don't think you actually mean that you're sorry. I let out an exhausted huff, and she raised her hands in surrender. Okay, I'll get over that. She smiled, but you should hang out with us. No. She grinned like she had been expecting that. All right. See you around, tough guy. The nickname wasn't necessary or appreciated, but she was letting me leave, so I was going to miss my chance. Bye. I hurried down the path before she could try and lure me back with some other trick. Like, seriously, who just takes someone's Doritos? I feel like it's quite obvious that I'm not the type of guy you mess with about food. I mean, she has to be stupid to breathe, man. If I was going to keep running into her, I might have to find a new route home, for my sake, and for the sake of my snacks. Alright, everyone, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and comment down below if you would like to see anything else. Leave recommendations in the comments. Also, leave a comment just to say hello. I love talking to you guys. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, also leave those in the comments, and you can also reach out to me at readshalleck@gmail.com. I'll leave my email down in the comments below, down in this description below, if I can remember. If not, then leave it in the comments and I'm just stupid. But either way, I will see you guys in the next episode. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. Bye, friends.